I'm gonna do a rant video today. I'm kind of upset. Not at everybody, because somebody's gonna say, yeah, that's all you do is complain about your audience. Well, I have every right to complain about some of my audience this time. The other day I made a video, and I was trying to encourage people to live their dreams, that when you're in your 20s and 30s, you're having kids, you're building a career, you're doing things that you're supposed to do when you're in your 20s and 30s. But when you get into your 50s, 60s, and 70s, you're supposed to be living your dreams, retirement, enjoying your old age, enjoying the fruits of your labor, relaxing. And I was trying to explain how easy I have made my life here. I was trying to explain that my biggest chore of the day is feeding the chickens. Lots of people have dogs and cats they feed, but you can't feed chickens because that's just too much work. Or I go out and I get a garden hose and I fill some water. I mean, that's a lot of work, although most people will go out in the garden all day long, digging and having a great time, watering their lawn, but living off grid with a garden hose, no, you can't do that. There's just too much work involved with living off grid. I want to live your dreams, Rob, but I can't do it. And you always come up with an excuse. Everything's an excuse. Well, I was told I don't understand. Really, I don't understand? What is it that I don't understand? I've done quite a bit of my life. I've traveled the country. I was on a submarine. I owned my own company. I'm not sure what it is I don't understand, but let me hear you out. Oh, I see. You gained a disability now that you've gotten older. Yeah, a lot of us do that. And a lot of us go ahead and continue through. I mean, just today, I was thinking about making this video, and I had some rocks in the yard, and I was throwing them out in the woods, and I went, oh, my shoulder. I'm disabled, right? I should just quit. I've got too much pain. I can't continue on. Well, let me tell you about pain that I know from a torturous childhood. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, you're just whining. Well, I wasn't whining. I was trying to encourage people to enjoy their retirement. I am going to explain to these people who can't get out of bed because, old age has crept in. Yeah, old age creeps in if you just lay in bed all day and you don't want to do anything. Let me tell you about pain. So I was born in 1971. I know you're a young fella. You don't know what pain is. Wait until you get older. I get it. A year and 1 month to the day, I had a baby sister. So she was born November 26, 1972. When she was born, it was obvious there was something wrong, terribly wrong. She came out with most of her bones broken. She had a disease called osteogenesis imperfecta. If you ever watched that movie, I can't think of the title of it, it doesn't really matter, but Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis. Samuel L. Jackson was broken all through his childhood. Of course, Samuel L. Jackson, he was fully grown and he could walk. My sister never did walk. And they said that she wouldn't live more than a year. And some nurse is the one that identified what her problem is. See, you get a little blue. You know where the whites of your eye is? When you have osteogenesis imperfecta, you get blue around in that white. And this nurse came around and said, oh, I've seen this before. It's a rare disease, osteogenesis imperfecta. And what it is your bones are very brittle. So my sister, I don't know, she was probably almost 2, and I think we were at my grandma's house. This is what my memory serves. We were at grandma's house, and she was trying to stand up. She was balancing herself on the coffee table, and her leg broke, fell right down. So I think from that point on, I think walking was pretty much out of the question for her. So Dad and Mom refused to let her live a non-normal life. She was going to live a normal life as much as possible. So Dad immediately built this roller thing. Now you got to remember, my sister was always in a cast, usually a body cast. So I remember they would cast her legs and they would put a bar in between her legs. And Dad would pick her up with that bar and her head and pick her up and move her around. But Dad built this roller thing so she could roll around on this board. It was just a board with wheels on it. She would roll around on that while her legs were in a cast. Never stopped her from doing anything. I remember when we were a few years older, same house, and we've obviously moved around several times while I was a child. Same house, and we had a swing set. And there's a picture of this. My neighbor friends, Kathy and Mike, I think their name was, and me and Joyce were out on the swing. Dad had built a swing for Joyce, my sister, specifically for her. He took a milk crate, put chains on it, and kind of put it so she could still swing in this milk crate. But she was completely encapsulated, except for the front part, of course, which there was a seat belt, so she could swing with us kids. Never allowed her to sympathize with her disability. She was required to be a child and not to be afraid of the pain that was going to be caused by broken bones. It was just a point of life. The next house we moved in, the next serious memory I have of a broken bone, Joyce threw a pillow at me. Couch pillow. We were sitting, she was on the couch, I was standing up, she threw a pillow at me. Now remember, my sister was very tiny. When she was 18 years old, well, she didn't live to 18, she lived to 17. She was 3 foot tall, just a little bit over 3 foot tall. Her body just didn't grow because of her deficiencies. And her bone structure wouldn't have held the weight if she had grown. So she threw this pillow at me, and I chucked it back at her. You know, just kid stuff. Every kid goes through this, right? You throw your pillow at your sister. That's just what you do. Now you got to understand, I was always told, don't break your sister. That was the number one rule in the house. You don't roughhouse, you don't break your sister. Don't do it. Not only that, I didn't want to break my sister. I'm sure it was painful. Threw the pillow at her, and sure enough, broke her arm. Now, here's the thing. There was a lot of emotional stress on me as well. Back then, children weren't allowed into hospitals. So I had to be well behaved. I would always sit down in the waiting room while mom and dad visited my sister for hours. Thanksgiving, I was down in the waiting room while they were up there eating the Thanksgiving dinner from the platter that the hospital gave her. It wasn't until I was a little bit older that I was allowed up into the hospital. It was always Cardinal Glennon St. Louis Hospital, Children's Hospital. I remember, and Dad tells this story all the time. He went up and visited my sister. I was sitting in the waiting room. He told me, don't move. You sit right there. Well, he come down, and the lady behind the counter said, he has been perfect the whole time. He hasn't budged. That's how you have to deal with a broken sister all the time. So fast forward a few years, I'm not even sure where we were at, but we were in the parking lot of the grocery store. Back then, of course, you could sit in the truck. That's just the way we were, kids were raised back then. So we're sitting in the pickup truck, and Joyce found a straw, and she was jabbing me with it, just a straw, a drinking straw. I grabbed the other end of him, and I started pulling it from her. And when I pulled, I broke her arm. Now here's how you endure pain and still be a child and still live your dreams and play tug of war with your bigger brother. Here's how you do it. I'm freaking out. Oh my God, I've broken your arm. I mean, I heard it. The thing is that one event has traumatized me my entire life. I can't watch a movie where they break bones. I'm plugging my ears, I'm closing my eyes. It has completely traumatized me. That one event. And I'm panicked because you're not supposed to break your sister. Don't do it. And she didn't cry, she didn't do anything. She says, I won't tell them you did it. Now, that's how you endure pain, and that's how you endure a disability, and that's how you live your dreams, playing tug of war with a straw with your bigger brother. But no, I don't understand it. I don't understand disabilities. I don't understand pain. Rob, you don't have any idea what you're talking about. You're right, I don't. Nope, not a clue. So fast forward a few years later, and we're much older now. I'm a teenager. I was either in junior high or high school. I'm pretty sure it was junior high though. 8th grade, to be specific. It was at least 8th grade. My sister is up the hill with one of her friends. It was a steep hill. Now, how did she get there? Well, what she did was she scooted. That's what we called it, scooted. She always wore holes in the hind side of her pants, just constantly. Because you take your hands and you would kind of lift yourself up and pull yourself forward with your legs. And you'd lay back down on your butt. Now, remember, she also had a wheelchair, but she hated that wheelchair. She only used the wheelchair in school because schools require it. Which I will get back to about schools in just a minute. So bear with me. So she's up on the hill, and they've got a tricycle that they're going to let her ride around on. Well, I don't know what she was thinking. Oh, I know what she was thinking. I'm going to be a regular teenage kid the best I know how. My friends are riding bicycles, so I'd like to ride something. So she gets on a tricycle, and they're going down the hill, the big hill. I mean, it's a huge hill. The momentum, the inertia of the pedals on that little tricycle broke her leg. So she jumped off because she was going to wreck. And when she jumped off, she broke her arm. The neighbors come running down. Now, Dad wasn't home. They come running down. Your sister is hurt. She's on the ground. So I run up the hill. She's broke. I mean, I know she's broke. I pick her up, call Dad, and we, of course, get her to the hospital. So she's living her dream. She's doing her thing. Now, shortly thereafter, we were at a work picnic. My dad had a job, and they had a Teamsters place. And they had a swimming pool. I mean, it was beautiful. A pond you could fish in, all kinds of stuff, picnic areas. And they're, the guys, the adults were playing baseball. And my sister is on this slide. Now, it's a huge slide that you use potato sacks on. And she's, going down just like all the other kids are. And again, what are you thinking? Why are you doing this? Oh, I know, you wanted to be a teenage kid. You wanted to live your dreams. You wanted to be normal. You didn't want to make excuses for your disability. So she's sliding down. Of course, she breaks an arm, and a bunch of people are running over, screaming to my dad, your daughter's broke her arm, your daughter's broke her arm. And they're all in a panic, and they're, call 911 and all that stuff. And Dad's like, just relax. It's okay. And he does what he always does. He grabs a few pieces of cardboard and some sticks, and he makes a splint and takes her to the hospital. I mean, this is just what we did. So she could still enjoy her childhood. There was no excuses for her not to enjoy her childhood. Well, back in the 70s, I want to get back to the school conversation. Schools weren't allowing handicapped children into schools. They just weren't doing it. And my parents fought and fought and fought to get her into school. Well, she made it into school. I mean, she started in kindergarten just like everybody else, but they wouldn't let her ride the bus. They had to have a specially made seatbelt. So Mom had to take her into school every day. That is not a normal childhood. You're the only kid in the neighborhood that has to be taken to school by Mom. No, that's not normal. So what did my parents do? Fought and fought and fought until they got the specially made seatbelt so she could ride on the bus. This is how you do it. This is how you be normal. This is how you live your dreams, and you ride along in the school bus with everybody else. You don't make excuses, you just do it. So I grow up and become an adult. I run my own business for a few years, and I finally closed that down in 2010. And in 2011, I started working for sheltered workshops. Now, sheltered workshops are facilities, manufacturing facilities to be specific. They manufacture products. So there's customers who send components together, and we would assemble these pieces of product. We would shrink wrap, for example, packages of soap, but we only hired disabled folks to work in the manufacturing environment. The function of the workshop was to teach people with disabilities how to work in a manufacturing environment. And there was a variety of disabilities, mental disabilities and physical disabilities. You would see people just crawling in, trying to get to work, but with a big old smile on their face, because you know what they're doing? They're going to work. They're being normal. They're not letting their disability get in their way. They're wanting to have a job. They're wanting to socialize with their friends. They're wanting to be happy. And the only way to be happy is to endure the pain of coming to work and crawling through the manufacturing floor to get to their job post. People who in any other atmosphere would not be able to do a thing. They weren't going to be able to drive. They weren't going to be able to manage their money. They weren't going to be able to do anything. And here they are now coming to work. You usually lived in a group home, so they just took your check anyways, your Social Security check. But these folks actually had an extra paycheck. Now, I know what people are going to say, oh, you can't get an extra paycheck when you're on Social Security. It's not a huge paying job. There was a lot of laws passed so we could do this, and they still get their Social Security and different things. So my life, I was around severely disabled people. Not folks who ate too much and got a sickness that can be cured. Not folks who just grew old and can't throw a rock across the yard anymore, but folks who were born severely disabled, wanting to be normal. And I'm being told, oh no, that's not possible. Once you're disabled, you have to lay up in bed all day and dream about living some life that I'll never be able to live. Well, I'm not buying it. I'm just not going to buy it. I'm not going to let any physical disability get in my way. Not after watching my sister go through, her arms and legs were bowed. I wish I could explain it. So here's my arm. Her arm would go around. And the reason her arms would go around like that, both of them and her legs, was after a while the doctor stopped straightening her arm and legs after she broke them. They just let it heal in place. So they were crooked. They were bowed. She had been through several operations to get pins put in her legs. So she's spending all this time in the hospital dreaming of going out and doing something. But everybody else who wants to be disabled, giving up a life so they can lay in bed. The exact opposite of what my sister did. I'm not buying it. So if you'll click this up next box, it will take you to that video where I was trying to encourage you to live your dreams. Thanks for watching.